So really, I've taken up the time explaining the movie, but I really feel that's the best way to accurately say how I feel about it. I mean, just all that going on is just so cool. It's kind of like more romanticized. It's like if Inception was a romantic comedy instead of a heist movie. That's a good way.
That's the vibe I get from what you've told me.
But since this is directed by Michel Gondry, they just have crazy amounts of visuals going on, and this is the best film he's done yet, because he's incorporating a lot what he learned from directing the music videos he's done, and that he's doing just incredible amounts of camera special effects to create the illusion of the erasing memories, and not computer stuff, which just makes it feel so much real, so much more real.
You gotta respect a director who will take the money that he could be putting to computer effects and put it towards physical effects. Because it takes so much more creativity and so much more effort, and that shows. I mean, not to say that computer animators don't put effort forth and aren't creative and that it's a sellout. Sometimes it's necessary. I accept that. But do as much as you can for real, not for play.
Yeah, because when you have more computer stuff than clashing against live action, you are losing us.
Well, exactly, and we can tell as an audience.
What makes me happy is that he's still doing that in like the bigger budget movies he's doing now. And Green Hornet, you could just tell that a lot of that was actually done.
Which I
old
appreciated.
School.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like all the stuff they did with the car, they easily could have done computer. And if it was any other director, they probably would have, but nope.
They trashed that old Chrysler, which I hated.
They really cut it in half. They really rode it up an elevator.
And then drove it around.
And
cut it
they
in
really
half.
drove it around that office set. And they probably really drove it out a building.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably iffy, but... I mean...
We can dream.
Or they used a real car and forced perspective or something.
Yeah. They dropped a car.
So, your number 2, Kyle.
My number 2 movie is The Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption. Which...
Jim Carrey reference.
Yeah.
Wait. Let's go back and make that a segue. So Jim Carrey starred in Turtle Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, had this line in Ace Ventura, which it happens to be Kyle's number 2 movie, which is...
It's too bad this isn't video, because the lack of respect on my face has just got to be immense.
I don't know why that turned into a Jeff Goldblum impression, but it did.
Okay, well...
I'm done now.
Thank you. No, that is probably one of the funnier moments in Ace Ventura Part 2, by the way. Anyway, The Shawshank Redemption is my number 2 movie because Tim Robbins is brilliant as Andy Dufresne. There's a lot going on with that character. He's quiet, which means he doesn't talk about everything that's going on. But I can still tell through Tim Robbins' performance that there's a lot going on with this guy a lot of the time. And
that has to be his best performance to date.
Uh-huh. It's moving and it's powerful, and this guy not okay with being thrown in prison because he didn't do what he was thrown in prison for, but rather than whine and complain and subsequently get beaten by the guards for it, he sits there quietly and thinks of a way to get out of it. And then he does it, which is good. And it took immense dedication on the character's part, and obviously it took him years. But he does this so well. And then he's not the only actor who does a good job in this. Morgan Freeman, another iconic actor who is good in most I've seen him in, I've enjoyed him in. Wanted is the exception. I don't think that was his best decision, but He's good in The Shawshank Redemption. Also, some of the elements that they explore, institutionalization and corruption.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Stankel.
All right. This was a big deal to one of our social studies teachers in high school, and but this is just good. It's a good story of human endurance and will, and how those two are so intertwined. Fighting spirit.
Yes.
For you Gurren Lagann
I'm
fans.
glad that made it.
It had to.
I think this had, like, the reason why we like this movie as well as Catch Me If You Can, I think it's kind of similar reasons, and that the main character is just so damn clever and smart about his handling the situation.
Yeah. And it's not a good situation that he's in.
Maybe not so much making the decisions that got him in that situation and continue to keep him in that situation,
yeah.
but the way that he
Deals
ultimately... It's just entertaining the way he does it, okay?
Yeah. And it's... I don't know, I had a lot of fun watching this movie, which I guess for those of you who only saw Prison Rape, you're not going to understand that. Yeah, that was a part of it, but it was also, it's unfortunately a part of being in prison, and I'm glad that the writers and the directors didn't shirk from that.
Yeah.
It's gritty, but it's good, and it's about...
It serves as a ultimate low point for the character, for sure.
Well, yeah, and he's not just in prison, he's being harassed in prison by the guards, and there's just, like I say, there's so much going on, and he's not a vocal man. So, just kudos to Tim Robbins for this one. Respect. Because this is by far, like Matt said, his greatest performance to date.
And Stephen King.
Oh, yeah. And Stephen King. We could go into how I feel about Stephen King, but we'd be here all night.
I wanted to focus more on the film aspects of it.
Exactly.
So this wouldn't turn into a 3-hour spiel.
Exactly. So we're just going to say that Stephen King wrote it, and he did a damn good job.
Didn't write the screenplay.
No, he wrote the book.
Yeah.
He wrote the story.
Yeah.
Which... so good. All right. Matt, you're number 2.
The Iron Giant, directed by Brad Bird. And rated PG.
With Vin Diesel.
For those of you who don't know what this movie is, and I don't blame you, this is a 2D animated movie. It's actually, I believe, the last feature animated movie by Warner Brothers. One of the last, anyway. And it's about it's set during the Cold War, and it's about a giant robot that comes to Earth and befriends a little kid, and the conflict comes from the paranoia that this is basically a weapon that could kill us all.
Yeah.
But
I want
when
to stop you real quick, though.
Yeah.
The time is set at the beginning of the Cold War, and that's important.
Yeah.
Because the ending of the Cold
yeah.
War,
Yep.
no one really gave a shit anymore.
This is
the 50s.
the 50s.
And it's based heavily on 50s science fiction serials. There's a lot of those influences.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I said, the conflict of the movie comes from the paranoia, because the kid manages to keep the robot relatively well hidden.
Well, I think he lives in like upstate Maine, though.
Yeah.
So that's not really hard.
But I mean,
there's not a lot going on where he lives.
It catches the attention of the government, and it just gets worse as they go on, and so the themes of the movie are very much because the robot is really just kind of a really huge toddler,
Yeah.
you know, and he's not really a threat other than his
Size.
yeah. And so it's kind of like the theme of the movie is that all the paranoia turns him into a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Like it activates his weapon computer brain, and
Yeah.
so it's Brad Bird's first directorial feature-length debut, and it's fantastic. it's such a classic story, and it's done so well in this movie.
The first time I saw it, I was 17, and I enjoyed the crap out of it.